What's going on, guys? At Seaver Shoots here with a little holster review. Less of a review and more just walking you through different holster setups. I've had some people ask me specifically to go over the holsters that I run, especially for my P-0365 XL that has the fancy tactical development rail on it with my Inforce APLC. So this is kind of an off-brand setup that I have. So I had to get creative with finding holsters for it. Now, luckily, the guy who makes the rail adapter, he works with some guys who make holsters. I think it's 4 companies now, and they all make holsters that fit this setup specifically. So the first holster I will show you is from DeVito's Custom. The setup is 2 clips, a claw, and a nice high sweat guard in the back, and it's optics cut. So let's go through each of those things and why I do them. 2 clips instead of 1 is because 1 clip makes it so that the gun can cant itself in your pants, and I don't like that. I've had experiences with that, and it's not fun. I don't enjoy it. So the second clip helps it to stay sturdy, all right? There are 1 clip options out there that work, and we'll show one in a minute, but I typically like to go with the 2 clip setup. Claw is a necessity. If there's an option for a claw, you click that button because you need this. The belt goes through the loops, goes over the claw. When you tighten it, pushes the claw and pushes the gun into you so that the handle does not print. This is an anti-printing device. You need that. The next thing is the sweat guard. Always get a high sweat guard. Never get a low sweat guard. I've made that mistake 2 times now, getting a low sweat guard, and I regret it every time. This is the only holster that I have that has the high sweat guard, and in the future I will make sure to get higher sweat guards for my guns. I always get tricked by going for the mid, and that's never good. So, high sweat guard, it allows you when you're coming to reholster to hit something other than you, to know that you're going in the right direction, and then you can guide your gun down in it. We'll talk about the optics cut next. Always get your guns optics cut. There's no downside, and most companies don't charge more for it. So there's no reason not to. If you're not gonna get an optic, fine, but you might in the future. You never know. Things change, circumstances change. Maybe your eyes get bad and you need an optic. Get it optics cut. It doesn't cause any more like wobble within your holster. It doesn't cause any issues. There's no downside. Get an optics cut every time. The last thing I want to talk about with this guy is the trigger guard. The retention in a light-bearing holster is on the light and the curvature of the light instead of the trigger guard, which is how a normal holster works with retention. So the holster is molded so that the light fits in, right? That tends to widen up the trigger guard. Now the good thing is the Inforce APLC is not a super fat light. It's pretty thin for the most part. So it does not give a lot of space for me to get into that trigger guard. I couldn't get in there unless I was trying to. If I tried with like a hook or something, I could get in there and pull the trigger, but that's not gonna happen to you. So don't worry about how much space is between the holster and the trigger guard if you're running a light. There shouldn't be enough room for you to get anything dangerous in there to pull the trigger, okay? Don't worry about that. Now, let's talk about very similar things though, but with a different gun. This is my Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 Compact, and this is from McKinney Holsters, a buddy of mine. He makes great products. I have another one coming from them, and it's going to be a drop leg setup, so it's got the G-code hanger on the back. Anyway, great retention with the light, same thing. Can't get into the trigger guard. Now on this, I've got the 1 big fat clip, and this is the only way I'm okay with running 1 clip, because there's enough space up here at the top to contact your belt that this thing's not going to cant itself around as you're walking, all right? So big fat 1 clip, it's the only way to run a 1 clip. One thing I didn't talk about with the other holster is clips need to be cantable, in my opinion. So what that means is that if I hold this straight, you can see that there's an angle to the clip. Well, the way that this is gonna sit on my belt is more like that. That tips the grip of the gun up, and it makes it easier to get a purchase. It gives you more room between your belt or your pants and your grip, so that you can get your fingers in there for a nice clean draw. So cantable clips are a must. Again, optics cut, and this is a good example. This slide is not milled for an optic, but I got the holster optics cut anyway in case I ever decide to get this optics cut in the future. Then I've got the space. Now, one thing that this doesn't have that this does have that my other holster does not, that I usually like to get, is suppressor height sights. Okay, clearance for that. I don't have suppressor height sights on this gun currently, but if I ever run an optic, I will want suppressor height sights, and the holster will need clearance for those. The P365 XL does not need it because the optics for it come with a notch cut out in them that co-witnesses with the front sight already. So you don't need suppressor height sights for this. I don't think there was even an option to do that for this gun, so that's why it's not on there. But all of my other guns, I get suppressor height sight clearance just in case I throw an optic on, and then I have to get co-witnessing sights. So that's my setup from Makinetech holsters. Now, the fun thing about this thing and running lights on your guns in general is sometimes you might end up with cross compatibility. So this holster did not come as fast as this holster did. I ordered them around the same time, and I wanted to carry this really badly, but I couldn't because I was waiting for this. So when this showed up for my M&P 2.0 compact, I was like, hey, they have the same light, I might as well try it. I slipped this guy in here, and boom, it fits. Not only does it fits with retention too, because the retention is on the light. Now, if you ever try this, one thing that's important that you should do is you should rock it back and forth. I'm pushing forward and pulling back to see if it has too much forward-backward movement. If it's too loosely fit in there, that's not a good idea to carry it like this. But this has pretty good retention and no wobble in the holster. So I actually carried this gun like this for a while in my M&P 2.0 compact holster. One of the reasons that I got the drop leg system from Makinetech holsters cut for my M&P is so that I can also run this in it, because I already know they're cross compatible. So on my drop leg setup, I could run either my M&P 2.0 or my P365 XL. I shoot this gun way better than I shoot any other gun, so odds are good that that's what I'm gonna do. Kind of cool. Sometimes you can find cross compatibility between your holsters depending on the holster and the light setup. I don't know if that would work with other companies, because different companies tend to mold their holsters differently, but it works that way with him, and I love that, so that's what I'm going with. The last holster I want to talk about is one that can be worn either as concealed carry in certain circumstances or outside the waistband open carry. And that's an outside the waistband pancake holster. This one's for my CZ75 P-01 Omega. The retention is on the trigger guard because I'm not running a light on this guy. It has a channel for the suppressor height sights, because this is a suppressor ready gun. And one thing that this company also did was they cut a little hole in the bottom and molded it so that the suppressor ready barrel could squeak through there and have its own little space. Now, one thing I would say about this is that I got this holster with the gun when I bought it. I bought this in a private sale, and the holster came with it, which I was okay with. And so I don't know where this is from. I don't know how much it cost, but you can find a lot of setups that are exactly like this. Now, one thing that's interesting to note is that they put the cant in the mold of the gun. Notice how it's kind of right, this is right side up, and this is how it will sit on my belt, which pulls this up a little bit. One thing about this setup is it is good for certain things like hiking. If I wanted to go hiking, I would probably carry a gun like this, open carry it up in the mountains, If I wanted to concealed carry it, you'd have to wear it under like a plaid button-up shirt, or I know some people carry like this under a suit jacket, for example. But the thing is, this is pretty much contained to the 9 and 3 o'clock position. With these other holsters, you can wear them anywhere on the clock. With this guy, you can really only wear it on your hip. It won't work as a front carry. It might work as a back carry depending on how you're shaped, but for the most part, you should stick to around 3 to 4 o'clock with a holster set up like this. The belt loops just go in one side and out the other. I personally don't love setups like this because they sit up a little too high for me. I want something that sits lower, which is why I'm going with the whole drop leg setup. And I would never, I'm not a big fan of outside the waistband concealed carry. I don't think I would ever do that. So I mostly just keep this just in case I want to take it out on a range day and run it like this.
Ow.
It's kind of cool, but not really my flavor. So at the end of the day, the perfect setup for me is this guy, 2 clips in the claw, optics ready, because I will throw a 507K on here when Hollow Sun releases them. And then the light, high sweat guard, and the last thing I would talk about is tuckable. So as you can see, if I pull these away, there is space behind these clips, and the purpose of that is once you are threaded through your belt, you can now tuck a shirt in behind this. And it's the same with the McKinnitex holster. There's space behind here so that after I clip this on, I can then tuck my dress shirts over it. And I like that because that means that I can very easily concealed carry to church or to job interviews or whatever. And if the clips concern you, if you feel like this big fat boy is going to be too visible, or you feel like these 2 clips are going to be suspicious, just know you are a gun owner and you are a concealed carrier, and so you have an eye for those things. You're looking for them, you know what they look like. Anti-gunners or people who are just not familiar with guns, they don't notice stuff like that, and that's okay. So don't be afraid to tuck and carry just because you think someone will see your clips. If anything, they'll think it's just part of your belt, especially if the rest of your gun is concealed well. If the only thing they can see is their clips, then they're just left to assume what those clips are a part of. For me, they mostly just look like a part of my belt or an attachment for my pants or something, and I can't imagine people are spending too much time looking at my crotch anyway. So if that's something that worries you, try it out, and then hopefully you'll come to realize that it's not that big of a deal. Anyway guys, if you liked this video, please like and subscribe, and I will catch you later.